Hopefully you can all see the presentation.
Yep.
Excellent. And I do apologise. There is a pop-up somewhere that is not letting me. There we go. I do apologise. The technical difficulties, everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you so much for having us. So my name is Kyla Kirko. I'm the Executive Group Manager of Pipeline Capability Estate and Infrastructure Canberra, and my group has the wonderful privilege of being the custodians of a number of properties that Infrastructure Canberra own. And with me tonight is Kristen Bloom, who's my Executive Branch Manager, and Jonathan, who is from Minister Stephen Smith's office. And again, thank you for having us to chat about 91A Wakefield Gardens. And before I start, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians and the land on which we're meeting the Ngunnawal people, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that acknowledgement and respect to any other families with connection to the ACT and region. So hopefully you are familiar with the site we're talking about. So it is what looks a bit like a house, and behind the Ainslie shops.
Kyla, just sorry to interrupt and gremlins, but we're seeing the presentation, but it's not the presentation screen, changing? Unfortunately. No. We tried to test this, and Zoom doesn't like our system.
That's right. I think you need to share your entire screen, not just the PowerPoint.
Not just the PowerPoint. Thank you. Do bear with me then. I apologise for the technical difficulties. Let me try that again. I share that and then open this. Is that better?
We do have the slides. Wait a minute. We just lost them.
Can you see anything?
Yeah.
We see the slide, but it's just the first slide.
Okay. When I went in,
the second one.
Yeah, we just saw the second one then.
Excellent. Wonderful. And is that now showing 91A Wakefield? Okay, yes. Wonderful. So this is just to orient everyone so we knew which building we were talking about. So it is the one behind the wonderful Ainslie shops, and as part of the Wakefield Gardens precinct. Unfortunately, the building was subject to a fire, and as a result, it is now structurally unsound, and we are going to have to demolish the building based on advice from our structural engineer. So in terms of the demolition process, we've engaged with the Heritage Council, and we're in the process of getting the DA to do the demolition and the procurement process to do that. And concurrently, what we are also doing is listening to the community about what we might do now with the site moving forward as well. So we've been doing a number of pop-ups at the Ainslie shops and reaching out directly to a number of organisations. In terms of the demolition, it is subject to a DA, and the prior conversation was a great segue, because even government's not immune to those processes, and so it will take a little bit of time, but we're very hopeful early in the new year that we'll be able to safely demolish the site. In terms of the direct stakeholder engagement, so we have, as I mentioned, spoken to the ACT Heritage Council. The gardens around the site are heritage listed and part of that Wakefield Gardens precinct. We have reached out to Mothercraft and Winunga Nimitja, who are both previous tenants of the community centre. We've also spoken to the Ainslie Residents Association, and of course yourselves tonight as well. As I mentioned, we've done a number of community pop-ups, with our last one occurring this afternoon. We do also have an online survey that is still open until the 7th of November. So people are still able to provide their feedback through that channel. In terms of the promotion of that consultation, so there was a media release issued by Minister Stephen Smith, social media posts on Facebook, and our Canberra article. We also did a letterbox drop to all Ainslie residents and had posters around the Ainslie shops, and that has really generated some wonderful engagement on this. So as at 15 October. So, and this includes this afternoon's numbers. So we've had about 114 survey responses through the online form on our Your Say website, and we've had over 180 people interacting with us at the pop-ups, and that has included people of all ages and some really wonderful suggestions from across the community. In terms of next steps, what will happen? So from the 7th of November, once consultation formally closes, we'll be pulling together a listening report, and we're hoping to be able to release that in early December with what we've heard as to what may be some good solutions for the future of that site at 91A Wakefield. And otherwise, we'd love to open it for questions.
Thanks heaps, Kyla. Just before people ask questions, could you enlighten me what pipeline capability and estate infrastructure Canberra is?
Absolutely. So pipeline capability and estate and infrastructure Canberra is one of six groups now in infrastructure Canberra. So our group has quite a broad remit. As I said, one of our key responsibilities is we're the strategic asset managers for a large number of assets, most of which are community facilities or previous government buildings that are now leased to community organisations and provide community facilities and support. I also do a whole bunch of other things, including procurement, project enablement, basically anything that helps ICBR build the infrastructure we do to deliver for the Canberra community.
Who's ICPR?
Oh, ICBR Infrastructure Canberra. I do apologise. Classic public servant, and our
are you
learn.
in which department are you sitting? Are you sitting in the planning department or?
So Infrastructure Canberra is its own department. It was previously called Major Projects Canberra, and is now Infrastructure Canberra. So it is separate from the planning area, which is now City and Environment Directorate.
Okay, and you're sitting in Dixon?
Our office is based in the city.
Okay. Ernestine? You've got your hands up.
Oh.
Ernestine? Hello. Okay. Anybody else? Questions? Marcus?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the presentation. Just a couple of preliminary questions. How is this land currently zoned, and is there scope for changing the zoning? And just looking at it, it looks as if it was originally part of the Wakefield Gardens sort of area, and I'm just wondering what the history of this site was and how it ended up that there was a building here, because it looks like it was originally all part of the broader gardens. Yeah, so just a few preliminary questions about how we've gotten to this point.
Thanks, Marcus. So it is community facility zoned currently, and at this stage there isn't any plans to change the zoning. And I think CFZ land is very important, and we would like to maintain that in the inner north. If one of the suggestions that we receive through the community consultation that we think there's merit would require a plan amendment, that would require a major plan amendment. But yeah, at this stage that there isn't an intent to change the zoning from the CFZ community facility zoned land. That does allow a whole bunch of community, obviously community facility and community like functions on the site. It does also, there are some prohibitions, I guess, in with that zoning. Car parking being one of the things we have heard through feedback where we know there was some interest in car park with CFZ. Car parking is one of the prohibited uses on the site, as one example. In terms of the history of the site, and Kristen, you feel free to jump in if I misstate, but my understanding is that the building has been on site since about the 1920s, and it was the mothercraft and provided maternity well-being to the community. So the building has been on the site for quite a long time. So at least since the early 1900s, around 1920s, back as far as our records, and so has been part of that Wakefield Gardens precinct. But for at least as far as our records of the asset go back, there has been a building on the site for quite a long time.
Yep, great, thanks.
Ian, you're muted.
I did swear, but it was muted. Just on the building itself, it hadn't been used for probably 20 years. And so it was interesting, just the recent burn and, conspiracy theories abound and who cares? Was the building insured? First part of the question. And secondly, is there funds available for the redevelopment of that site?
So the building was, our assets do have insurance. And Kristen, again, I'll feel free to jump in if you've got any update on the process of that insurance claim. The money will likely go towards the demolition and make safe of the site. At this stage, there isn't any specific funding allocated to a future development. What we're seeking, I guess, is what we would want to do on that site, and that would inform any cost analysis and just future decision making on the site.
Yeah, and sorry, I'll just double check. I got my speaker down. Looking, yes, it's insured, as Kyla said, and we have to wait for that insurance process to, run its course. But we're certainly looking at a make safe scenario to take that structure down with the insurance money. And as Kyla said, it will be subject to the results of the engagement and the government decisions about what the future of the site might be. So there isn't an initiative funded through an existing budget to build something yet. So I guess
can we expect that there would be funds left over post a demo?
I wouldn't anticipate it based on our understanding of the cost of demolition. We're currently demolishing the old visitor centre out at Tidbinbilla, for example, and they're not cheap. And infrastructure, we have to be really careful about what we're doing. This one also had some hazardous materials, which is one of the reasons it didn't have tenants for some of the last time. And so we have to make sure it's very safely done, so it won't be a completely simple demolition. We also have to be very, very careful because of the heritage trees and the context around there. So I would not anticipate there will be, funds available, but we'll see. We don't have any indicative, outcomes of that yet.
I've got another question, but I think Katrina can ask her question first.
I'm a long-term resident of Ainslie. I've lived here since 1987. I actually only found out about this consultation this afternoon at the Ainslie shops. The mail dropout that you said went to every resident in Ainslie, it didn't come to me. And unless I follow everything that happens on ACT government sites, I wouldn't be aware of this consultation. I don't see numbers of less than 200 as a very good consultation because and one of the long-term residents, other than being an early childhood centre, it was for a very long period of time, it was a health clinic for our Aboriginal people. And I know as part of your consultation, that was explained to me this afternoon, you've reached out to the Aboriginal people to see what their thoughts are on what should happen to this building. I'm also a healthcare consumer rep, and I work in the arts in health area. And I think it's really important that you work with all the different groups that have been involved with this building to make sure that we pinpoint the different aspects of the building because it's one of the original historical buildings of the ACT. It's been in place since the 1920s. It's important we understand the history and document the history of the building. I also raised this afternoon because I do a lot of work with arthritis ACTs. Why, as part of this community consultation, can we look at this site as maybe a site for another hydrotherapy pool, because we've got a great shortage of hydrotherapy pools in the ACT. It could be built underground, it could be built above ground. Yeah, they're just some of my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback, Katrina, and definitely in terms of honouring the history of the site is something that we have heard through consultation and that we are keen to do in whatever the future of the site is.
And Katrina, I'll just add, it's been really lovely speaking with our colleagues in Heritage, because you'll be aware the heritage tracks, come right through the space, and there's a real sight line right down from Ainslie right through that space, and they're really keen to kind of engage around sort of thinking about that storytelling aspect and the history and the use of the site. And I know Mothercraft, even before we started this engagement, we're quite keen to look at, I guess, making sure there's an acknowledgement of the role in that site. And I think we'll be looking to, subject to Wenunga's thoughts and feelings and the views of our, colleagues in community, acknowledging that use as well in whatever future is on the site.
Hello, I have a question in the chat.
From Francis.
That's it.
Just while we're finding that, what opportunity do you think there'll be in the design of the replacement development for the community to engage in that actual design of the building, and also whether you'd run it like a design competition for an excellent community facility?
That's we can definitely put that on the ideas board, Ian, in terms of the solution. I think the spectrum of the suggested built form or facility on there is quite varied, and so it while some of them are very much a traditional built form structure, there has been a whole range of suggestions, and I think we will definitely note the additional suggestion that if there is a design element to it, that it includes community consultation or some friendly competition, maybe. And just to Francis's question in the chat, we are trying with the demolition process. We're trying to fast track that as soon as possible. The management and treatment of the site, as it is in terms of the fencing and what has or hasn't been covered, is all in accordance with the advice from our structural engineer. Is how we're treating the site. The site did. There is hazardous material on the site. We have done extensive safety testing, including air quality testing and monitoring for, asbestos in the air. That confirmed that it was, at, I think, to almost non-existent levels or very low, but definitely confirmed that there is no risk to community health and safety outside that perimeter zone of the fencing. We are trying to progress the demolition as quickly as possible, though, to eliminate any risk to the community of the site and ensure that it is safe as soon as possible. But as I mentioned, it does require a DA process and a procurement process, which do take time.
Marcus.
I've got a second question, but maybe Ernestine should go first, as she hasn't spoken yet.
Ernestine.
Thank you, Marcus. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Perfect, thank you. I think I might be getting a little ahead here, but I wanted to talk about the management of community buildings. I'm in Braddon. We have the beautiful Salthouse Community Centre. It's a fantastic building. It's managed by Northside Community Services, and it is literally unaffordable for the community to rent. It's between, the rates have gone down, it's between $50 and $72 an hour, but there's a $540 bond for every booking. And your average book club and yoga class and community activities cannot afford $540 bond. And I was just wondering whether that management structure will be applied to this facility as well. And you may end up again, we've literally in Braddon got a building that nobody uses. I've seen it used just a handful of times. And I believe it's the cost that is prohibitive for anyone to actually use that beautiful space.
Thanks, Ernestine. And we have heard strongly from the community through this consultation that the accessibility and affordability in whatever the site is or may be will be a really important, is important to the community. Each community facility and its management structure, is assessed on a case-by-case basis. It's somewhat premature at this stage, and we can't really comment on it. But yeah, we definitely hear that feedback, and we'll ensure that it is included in what we capture. And as I said, you are one of the many voices we've heard on a very similar theme of that through the consultation. So thank you for that feedback.
And do you capture data on the usage of existing facilities? Do you have that information?
Again, it depends on the management structure. I can't. I do believe for Salt House that data is provided by management to ACT government, and yeah, it would definitely be again something we would look to do for any future facility if there wasn't one in place.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Marcus.
Yeah, thanks. We did get the pamphlet that you sent round to Ainslie residents, and I haven't put in a formal submission or representation yet, but I will do so. But just in discussions in our household, a few ideas that came up was perhaps an expansion of the existing nearby medical facilities, the Ainslie family practice. There are some indications that that's relatively full at the moment. And also the other idea was perhaps some sort of sporting facilities such as lawn bowls club. I don't know if that's come up, but we have been engaging with a ACT government committee that has been looking into barriers to participation in sport. And one of the comments that frequently came up was lack of facilities. So, and there was the Braddon Bowling Club that did get closed down a few years ago. So there's just a few thoughts. I don't know if you've thought about them or heard them as representation so far, but I thought I'd raise them while we're here.
Thanks, Marcus, I love that. We've heard about pickleball a lot, I think that will be my great example of the changing demographics at Ainslie too, because the young people come in and tell us that, well, actually everyone comes in and tell us about pickleball, which surprised me the most standing at the shops. So yeah, that's great. Thank you.
But we'll definitely make sure lawn bowls is in the mix for those sporting options.
Kyla, who in the end will make a decision?
So it'll be a decision for the government to make. So the listening report will present the options. The part of my team's role will be undertaking an assessment and understanding within the constraints of the site. As we mentioned, it's there is the heritage listing, so any future option will need to be compliant with and sensitive to the heritage components, the size of the block and the zoning and the allowable uses as per the zoning, and then cost, I guess, or value for money more broadly is going to be a component as to the various options that they'll be presented to government. It'll be a decision for government as to the future use of that site.
Is that any particular minister who is responsible for community facilities?
Jonathan, do you want to feel free to jump in at any point as well? But so Minister Stephen Smith is the Minister for the Public Service and for community facilities that then come to Infrastructure Canberra as custodians sit within her portfolio.
Yeah, so community facilities, I think, is one of the very confusing elements of the way we structure the ACT government. So don't take too much of that to mean too much. But yeah, this site and many similar sites are within Minister Stephen Smith's portfolio now as of the last election. But I think, as Kyla says, there's probably cabinet level decisions involved in whatever the future is, but it would depend on what the outcome is as to exactly what the decision making might look like, I think is probably fair to say. Is that fair, Kyla?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Rachel is the relevant minister for this site, ultimately.
Okay. Thanks. Ian?
Just a quick one. A couple of forums that I've been to, including the one that was facilitated by Tom Emerson, there seemed to be a real passion for linking the facility with the broader park and to integrate the uses of the park and the improved development of the amenity of the park and link it with the facility. Is that part of your brief to be able to allow that integration and planning around that whole zone there?
So the surrounding land is, it has a different zoning, so it's urban open space, and it is managed by our colleagues in City and Environment Directorate. Though we, based on the suggestions we get, it's very likely that we would be reaching out and collaborating with them and so it's absolutely not off the table that there's a more of a precinct, shall we call it, for the entire Wakefield Gardens area, including that existing urban open space and parkland and playground, as to what the final solution is. So it's a case neither in nor out at this stage, Ian, but it's definitely not off the table, and it is also ACT government owned land, so that collaboration, should that be the best outcome, is absolutely possible.
Excellent.
And I don't want to stretch it too far, but I think probably likely, Ian, because the whole precinct is a heritage precinct, it has to be consistent, and the Heritage Council would require some, at least consistency across that approach. And we're already reaching and, working with our colleagues both in heritage and in city services to talk about that. I think we've heard a lot also about the transport and parking, and while it's not our responsibility, we want to, make sure we actually have that full picture of what we've been hearing when we're talking to the government.
Well, thanks heaps, Kyla and Christian, Jonathan, for that update. And I'm sure the Ainslie Resident Association will keep a keen eye on the process.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks.
Enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Thanks for
Thanks,
coming.
everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Another